It was 11 p.m. on the December night in Chicago when 14-year-old black girl Destiny Williams knocked on a wooden door and asked a millionaire if she could sleep inside. Not his mansion, his dog's house. Matthew Sterling stood frozen, not from the 12-degree cold, but from the impossible question hanging in the air between them. "Sir, your dog's house looks warmer than where I've been staying. Could I please sleep in there tonight? I won't steal nothing." The wind cut through the Gold Coast street like broken glass. Behind Matthew, heat poured from his brownstone's open door. Before him, a child shivered so violently her words stuttered. "What would you do?" "Before you answer, know this." His reply didn't just save her life. It exposed a nightmare hiding in plain sight. Drop a comment right now. What would your honest first instinct be? 12 hours earlier, Matthew Sterling had sat in a glass-walled boardroom 40 stories above Lake Michigan, watching numbers scroll across screens that represented more money than most people would see in 10 lifetimes. Sterling Industries, tech infrastructure, 700 employees, market cap in the billions. At 52, he'd built an empire on fiber optics and data centers, on the invisible cables that connected the world. But he couldn't connect to much of anything anymore. His assistant had brought coffee in a porcelain cup, the good china, the kind his wife Sarah used to insist on because small dignities matter. 3 years since cancer took her. 3 years of that empty brownstone in the Gold Coast where heated floors warmed empty rooms and a golden retriever named Gatsby was his only companion who didn't want something from him. The dog had it better than most humans, if he was honest. Sarah's last project before the treatment stopped working had been Gatsby's house. Handcrafted cedar, solar-heated floors, weatherproof insulation that could withstand Chicago's cruelest winters. She'd spent weeks on it, sitting in their garden workshop with blueprints spread across her lap, explaining her philosophy to anyone who'd listen. "Every creature deserves dignity," she'd said, running her hand along smooth wood. "If we have resources and we let anything under our care suffer from cold or fear, what does that make us?" Matthew had thought it excessive at the time, a heated doghouse with ventilation systems and temperature controls. But Sarah had grown up poor, had spent nights in a car with her mother when the rent couldn't be paid, knew what it meant to be cold in a city that didn't care. So she over-engineered everything she touched with compassion, building monuments to the belief that comfort shouldn't be a luxury. The boardroom meeting had run long. Quarterly projections, expansion strategies. His CFO, Gregory Anderson, had droned on about risk management and stakeholder value, words that once meant something but now felt like noise. Matthew had nodded at the right moments, signed the right documents, and left when the sun was already setting over the lake. He'd walked home because the night was clear and he needed air that didn't taste like recycled ambition. The cold was sharp but honest, cutting through his wool coat with a clarity he'd been missing. Michigan Avenue glittered with holiday lights, shoppers bustling between stores with bags full of things they didn't need, purchased with money they might not have. Gatsby needed his evening walk. The routine was one of the few things that still made sense. 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., same route through the neighborhood, same spots where the dog paused to sniff messages left by others of his kind. Simple communication, honest interaction. Matthew had changed into casual clothes and grabbed the leash when he heard it. A sound outside, not threatening, tentative. Someone knocking on wood, not his front door. He'd moved to the window and seen her there, small and dark against the snow, standing in front of Gatsby's house in the side yard. That's when he'd gone outside and found Destiny Williams asking the question that would change everything. 14 years old, though she looked younger in the dark, black girl, thin in a way that spoke of missed meals, wearing a jacket meant for October, not December's teeth. Her breath came out in clouds, visible proof of the cold trying to kill her. But what struck him wasn't her appearance. It was her eyes. She didn't look away when he approached, didn't run, stood straight despite the shivering, met his gaze with something that looked like dignity holding on by its fingernails. "How long have you been out here?" he asked. "Long enough to know that doghouse is nicer than most shelters," she replied, and her grammar was too good, her phrasing too self-aware for someone who'd been on the streets long. Matthew looked at Gatsby's house, Sarah's creation. Solar panels catching moonlight, heating elements keeping the interior at 68 degrees while a child froze 3 feet away. The absurdity of it hit him like a physical blow. "That's not a kennel," he heard himself say. "That's a heated, insulated structure my late wife built because she believed every creature deserves dignity." "Then your wife understood something about cold that most people don't." Destiny's voice was steady despite the shaking. "She built it for a dog because she had the power to. That's more than most folks do for anything." Something in her words cut through his practiced detachment. This wasn't a child asking for handouts. This was a person negotiating for survival with whatever leverage she could find. "What's your name?" he asked. "Does it matter?" She wrapped her arms tighter around herself. "Tomorrow I'll just be another kid you didn't help." The challenge in her voice reminded him of someone. His sister Melissa, who'd been 14 when she disappeared from foster care 35 years ago, who'd had that same defiant tilt to her chin, that same refusal to be pitied even when the world had failed her at every turn. Behind Matthew, his front door stood open, heat pouring into the winter night like money being burned. Before him, a child calculated whether freezing was better than trusting a stranger. The mathematics of desperation. Gatsby barked from inside, curious about the delay in his routine. Matthew made a choice. "Come inside." The words left his mouth before his brain could catalog all the reasons this was complicated. "Just for tonight." Destiny's eyes narrowed, street smart, suspicious. "Why would you do that?" "Because someone should have done it for my sister." The honesty surprised him, raw and unplanned. "She was your age when she vanished. Nobody helped her. I'm not making that mistake twice." Something flickered across Destiny's face. Not trust, not yet, but a crack in the armor. She followed him up the steps but kept distance between them, her hand hovering near her pocket where he suspected she kept something sharp. Smart girl. Dangerous world. The warmth inside hit them both, but she didn't relax. She stood in his foyer like a deer calculating escape routes, taking in everything with eyes that moved too fast, noticed too much. She clocked the security panel by the door, the positions of windows, the knife block in the kitchen visible through the doorway. Survival arithmetic. Gatsby patted over, tail wagging, and that's when Destiny's shoulders dropped half an inch. She knew how to read dogs better than humans, which told Matthew everything about her life. She knelt slowly, let the retriever sniff her hand, scratched behind his ears with the practiced ease of someone who understood pack dynamics and earned trust. "He's a good boy," she murmured, and for the first time her voice lost its defensive edge. "He is." Matthew moved to the kitchen, giving her space. "Are you hungry?" Stupid question. Of course she was hungry. But she didn't leap at the offer, just nodded once, still wary. He pulled out ingredients without overthinking it. Sarah's recipe for hot chocolate, the real kind. Cocoa powder and vanilla and cinnamon mixed with whole milk heated on the stove. Not the instant powder. Small dignities. He made 2 cups while Destiny sat at the kitchen island, coat still on, ready to run. He slid 1 mug across the marble countertop. Didn't crowd her. Let her pick it up when she was ready. Her fingers wrapped around the ceramic, and he watched her face change. The heat against her palms, probably the first real warmth she'd felt in days. She inhaled the steam, vanilla and chocolate and cinnamon, and something in her expression cracked. Not broke, just softened. She took a sip. Small at first, testing, then another, longer. The warmth spreading from throat to chest to fingers. Matthew saw her close her eyes for just a second, allowing herself 1 moment of not having to watch everything. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded. Gatsby had settled at her feet, a warm weight against her legs. Matthew noticed she'd positioned herself with her back to the corner, facing all entrances. Even in comfort, she calculated danger. "When's the last time you ate something hot?" he asked gently. She thought about it. "Tuesday, maybe? Soup kitchen on Clark Street. They ran out before I got seconds." Today was Saturday. Matthew opened his refrigerator, pulled out containers. Leftover roast chicken, fresh bread, butter, cheese. He made her a sandwich without asking permission. Thick slices, real ingredients, the kind of food that carried weight. Set it in front of her with a napkin. She looked at it like it might disappear, then at him, searching for the price. There was always a price. "No strings," he said quietly. "You're cold and hungry. This is just food." She picked up the sandwich. Ate slowly at first, maintaining control, but hunger won out and she finished it in minutes. He made her another. She slowed down on the second one, her body starting to trust that there would be enough. "Why do you have 3 locks but only use 2?" she asked between bites. Matthew blinked. "What?" "Your front door, 3 deadbolts. But the middle one isn't engaged, and you changed your alarm code recently. The 2 button is worn different than the others except 0 and 7, which are older wear." He stared at her. She was right. All of it. He'd changed the code 6 months ago after firing a housekeeper. The middle deadbolt had been broken since Sarah died, and he hadn't bothered fixing it. "How did you—" "You learn to notice things when you need to know who's dangerous." She took another sip of chocolate, held the warmth. "Your housekeeper is new. She put the coffee mugs in the wrong cabinet. There's dust rings." Matthew felt something shift in his understanding of this girl. This wasn't just survival instinct. This was intelligence operating at a level most adults never reached. Observational genius born from necessity. "Where did you learn to see like that? You learn to read people when staying invisible keeps you alive." She set down the mug. "You're safe, though. I figured that out in the first minute." "How?" "Your shoes. Expensive, but you walked home instead of driving. You stopped to look at a dog before noticing me. And you haven't asked me to leave, even though I know you're thinking about all the reasons you should." She met his eyes. People who are dangerous don't hesitate. Matthew leaned against the counter, reevaluating everything. "How long have you been out there?" 6 weeks, she said it simply. Give or take. And before that, her walls came back up. "A place I needed to leave." He didn't push. He understood something about the spaces people needed to protect. Instead, he said, "I have a guest room, or you can sleep on the couch if you prefer. Your choice." "Couch," she said immediately, closer to exits. He brought down pillows and blankets from the linen closet, soft cashmere throws that Sarah had loved, Egyptian cotton pillowcases that cost more than most people's monthly rent. He watched Destiny touch them like they were made of something unreal, her fingers tracing the fabric with reverence. She made up a bed on the couch with military precision, folding corners tight. Gatsby settled on the floor beside her without being asked, as if he understood his job was guardian tonight. "Thank you," she said again, and this time there were tears at the corners of her eyes that she blinked away fast. "Most people would have called the cops. Most people don't know that sometimes the system is what you're running from." Matthew moved toward the stairs, giving her privacy. "Bathroom's down the hall. Lock any door you want. You're safe here." "Sir?" Her voice stopped him. "What's your name?" "Matthew. Matthew Sterling. I'm Destiny. Destiny Williams. Good night, Destiny." "Good night." He climbed the stairs to his bedroom, but didn't sleep for hours. Downstairs, he heard Gatsby's quiet breathing and the occasional rustle of movement. A girl checking locks, making sure of exits, learning whether safety was real or another lie this city told. Morning came hard and bright, winter sun reflecting off snow until everything outside hurt to look at. Matthew woke to silence downstairs and for a moment wondered if he'd dreamed the whole thing. Then he heard water running. The shower. He found Gatsby sitting outside the bathroom door like a sentry. The shower shut off. Minutes later, Destiny emerged wearing the same clothes, jeans with holes in the knees, that thin jacket, a shirt that had seen too many wears without enough washes. But her hair was wet and combed, her face scrubbed clean, and she'd refolded the blankets on the couch into perfect squares. "I can leave now," she said, all business. "I know this was just one night. It's supposed to drop to 5 degrees tonight." Matthew filled the coffee maker. "You can't go back out there. I've survived colder. Surviving isn't the same as living." He pulled out eggs, bread, butter, started making breakfast without asking if she wanted it. "What's your plan for today?" She shrugged. Walls back up. "Same as yesterday. Stay warm where I can, find food, stay invisible." "Oh, that's not a plan, that's slow death." Her jaw tightened. "It's what I got." Matthew cracked eggs into a pan, focusing on the sizzle and pop to avoid saying something that would make her run. What if there was another option? There isn't. "How do you know?" "Because I've been looking for 6 weeks. Her voice cracked slightly. "Every shelter is full or wants ID I don't have. Every place that helps kids wants to put me in the system, and the system is what I'm running from." That stopped him. He turned off the burner, faced her. "What were you running from, Destiny?" She looked at Gatsby instead of him, scratched the dog's ears, calculated how much truth was safe. "A group home," she finally said. "South Side." It was okay at first. Then a new counselor started, Travis Wilson. He was too friendly, asked too many questions, took photos for records. She made air quotes. Started being real particular about which girls got special privileges. Matthew's blood went cold. "My friend Keisha, she got called for a special interview one night. Next morning she was gone. They said she ran away, but she wouldn't have. She was scared of the dark." Destiny's voice stayed steady, but her hands shook. "I started paying attention. Noticed things. Men in suits visiting late. Girls who went to counseling and came back different. Quiet. I heard Travis on the phone once talking about merchandise and buyers. Took me a week to find out he was selling information about us to somebody." Jesus Christ. Matthew's hands curled into fists. "So I ran." She looked up at him. "And they've been looking for me since. We need to call the police." "No." The word came out sharp, desperate. "You don't get it. Travis has connections. Half the cops on the South Side look the other way. I tried telling a social worker. She said I was making up stories for attention. Nobody believes kids like me." The doorbell rang. Destiny's whole body went rigid. Matthew moved to the window, looked out. His neighbor, Mrs. Bradford, standing on his front steps in a fur coat, early morning judgment radiating from her posture. "Stay here," he told Destiny. Went to the door. Mrs. Bradford smiled with too many teeth. "Matthew, good morning. I wanted to check on you. I saw you had company last night." "A friend's daughter," he lied smoothly. "She missed her train, needed a place to stay." "Ah." Mrs. Bradford's eyes moved past him, searching. "Of course. It's just, well, people talk. A young black girl at this hour is none of anyone's business." Matthew kept his voice level, cold. Was there something else? "I'm simply concerned about appearances, dear. You're a prominent businessman. These situations can be misunderstood." She lowered her voice conspiratorially. "There are proper channels for charity, facilities designed for her situation. She's not a situation. She's a person." Of course. I simply meant—" "I know what you meant." Matthew stepped back. "Thank you for your concern. Have a good day, Mrs. Bradford." He closed the door before she could respond. Turned to find Destiny standing in the hallway, face carefully blank. "She said facility like I'm a problem to be contained," Destiny said quietly. "She's wrong. She's rich. Rich people are never wrong in their own heads." Matthew wanted to argue but couldn't. Some people measure worth by zip codes. They're bankrupt where it counts. They went back to the kitchen. He finished making breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, fruit, real food. They ate in silence until a black SUV drove slowly past his window. Too slow, deliberate. Destiny saw it. Her fork clattered against the plate. "We need to go inside, now." "Who is that?" "I don't know, but they're looking for someone." She moved away from the window, breathing fast. "If they're checking houses here, they know I'm in this neighborhood." The SUV circled back, stopped 3 houses down. "Destiny, who are those people?" She looked at him, fear cutting through all her careful control. "The men in that car? They're looking for me. And if they find me here, you're in danger too. I should leave. Protect you." "No." Matthew moved to the window, memorized the license plate. "If someone's hunting you, we don't hide, we fight. You don't understand. These people—" "I understand that you're 14 and scared and brave as hell." He pulled out his phone. "I have resources, money, lawyers, connections. We're going to figure this out." "Matthew, you asked to sleep in my dog's house because you needed dignity and shelter. My wife built that house because she believed everyone deserves both." He met her eyes. "I'm not letting you go back out there. Not to them, not to the cold. We're solving this." Destiny's face crumpled for just a second before she caught it. "Why are you doing this?" "Because 35 years ago my sister needed someone to fight for her and nobody did." His voice roughened. "I'm not making that mistake twice." The SUV drove away, but they both knew it would be back. Monday morning brought consequences. Matthew's phone started ringing at 6 a.m. Gregory Anderson, his CFO, calling before markets opened. "We need to talk," Gregory said without preamble. "The board has concerns. About what? Don't play dumb, Matthew. Margaret Bradford called half the board yesterday. Something about you harboring a runaway minor? Gregory's voice carried that particular tone of controlled panic that rich men used when reputation was threatened. This is a liability nightmare. She's not a runaway. She's escaping abuse. Then call the proper authorities. The proper authorities failed her. Matthew paced his kitchen while Destiny sat at the island pretending not to listen. She came to me for help. I'm helping her. Keeping her in your house? Without guardianship? Without notifying anyone? Papers rustled on Gregory's end. Legal called me at midnight. Do you understand the optics? A 52-year-old single man, a 14-year-old girl. Don't. Matthew's voice went cold. Don't finish that sentence. I'm trying to protect you. The company. We have shareholders, Matthew. Stakeholders. Your personal reputation is corporate reputation. This girl, her name is Destiny. This girl is not your problem to solve. There are systems in place. The systems failed her. They're failing thousands of kids. Matthew looked at Destiny, who was staring at her hands. I have resources to actually help. Why shouldn't I use them? Because good intentions without proper procedure create legal exposure. Gregory sighed. Look, I understand you want to help. Call Child Services. They'll place her somewhere appropriate. You can donate to whatever organization handles her case. But keeping her there? That's asking for trouble. She stays. Matthew, I'm asking for 72 hours, Gregory. 3 days to figure this out properly. Get her a lawyer. Find out what she's running from. Do it right. Silence on the line. Then, 72 hours. But if this goes public, if there's any scandal, she goes to the authorities immediately. The board will insist. Am I clear? Clear. He hung up. Destiny was crying silently, tears streaming down her face without sound, like she'd learned to grieve without permission. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm ruining your life. You're saving it, actually. Matthew sat across from her. I've spent 3 years sleepwalking. You woke me up. Your friend wants me gone. Gregory wants to protect the company. That's his job. My job is to protect you. He slid his phone across the table. I need to know everything, Destiny. The group home, this Travis Wilson, the girls who disappeared. If we're fighting this, I need ammunition. She wiped her face, took a breath, started talking. The story came out in pieces. The Southside group home had 43 kids, rotating staff, not enough oversight. Travis had started 6 months ago as a youth counselor. At first, he seemed nice, bought pizza for movie nights, gave girls who behaved special privileges, later bedtimes, extra phone time, then the photographs. For records, he said, headshots, full body, detail shots that made them uncomfortable, but he was staff, so they complied. Then the interviews, private, one-on-one. Questions about family, did anyone visit? Would anyone notice if they missed a week? Questions about plans, did they want to age out or go to college or travel? 3 girls had vanished in 4 months, all written off as runaways, all 14 or 15, all black or Latina, all without family who called asking questions. I started researching trafficking, Destiny said. Used library computers. Found patterns, the photographs, the questions, the selection criteria, it all matched. They target girls nobody's looking for. You overheard something, Matthew guessed. She nodded. Late night, I couldn't sleep. Heard voices in Travis's office. I stood outside the door. He was on the phone talking about 3 units ready for transfer and buyers prefer the demographic we discussed. He laughed about how easy it was because the state pays us to warehouse them anyway. Matthew felt rage building behind his ribs. Next day, my friend Keisha got called for a special interview. That night, she was gone, bag still in her room, asthma inhaler still on her nightstand. She wouldn't run without it. Destiny's voice cracked. I knew what happened, knew I was probably next. So I grabbed what I could carry and went. Did you tell anyone? A social worker came by 2 days later. I pulled her aside, told her everything. She wrote notes, said she'd look into it. Next morning, Travis pulled me aside, asked if I had concerns I wanted to discuss privately. He knew I'd talked. She looked up at Matthew. That's when I knew he had people protecting him, so I ran. Matthew stood, paced, trying to channel fury into strategy. Okay, here's what we do. I'm calling my lawyer, best family attorney in Chicago. We document everything you remember, names, dates, descriptions of these men. Then we go to the FBI, not local cops. What if they don't believe me? They will, because I'm a credible witness now. You told me and I'm reporting it. He pulled out his laptop. And because we're going to find proof. He started searching. Sterling Industries had contracts with half the city's infrastructure. That meant access to data, security footage, traffic cameras. Over the next hours, with Destiny describing locations and dates, Matthew pulled surveillance footage from intersections near the group home. Time-stamped vehicles. License plates on late-night visitors. One plate kept appearing, registered to a shell company. More digging revealed a property management firm. More connections led to Gregory Anderson's wife's brother sitting on its board. Matthew's stomach dropped. Jesus. What? He turned the laptop toward her. Recognize these cufflinks? A surveillance photo showed Travis Wilson getting into a car, the driver's wrist visible, wearing distinctive silver cufflinks shaped like knots. Destiny went pale. Those cufflinks, I saw them, in the group home, on a man who came to visit Travis twice. She grabbed Matthew's arm. That's your friend, your CFO, Gregory. The name tasted like poison. He knows I'm here. They looked at each other as understanding crashed down. The phone call this morning, the insistence on involving authorities, Gregory's excessive concern about keeping things quiet. He's not worried about scandal, Matthew said slowly. He's worried about exposure. Destiny started checking locks. They're going to come for me. We need to move, now. Matthew grabbed his phone, but it buzzed before he could dial. Text from an unknown number. You have something that belongs to us. Return her undamaged or this gets complicated. Parking garage, 2 hours, come alone. Destiny read it over his shoulder. It's a trap. I know. Matthew forwarded the text to his lawyer, to 3 separate friends, to his head of security. But we're not running. We're ending this. He made 3 more calls. First to his attorney. I'm about to become either a hero or a criminal. Record everything I send you. Second to a private investigator he'd used for corporate cases. I need everything on Travis Wilson and Gregory Anderson in 90 minutes. Third to Sterling Industries' head of security. Follow me to an address. Stay hidden. If I don't walk out in 30 minutes, call the FBI. Matthew. Destiny's voice was small. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. He crouched to her level. My sister was your age. Nobody fought for her. She's been missing for 35 years. His voice broke. I'm fighting for you, and for Keisha, and for every other girl they think nobody's looking for. What if they hurt you? Then you run. You take Gatsby, you go to the address I'm writing down, my attorney's house, and you tell them everything. He scribbled on paper. Promise me. She hugged him suddenly, fierce and desperate. Be careful. I will. He stood. Stay here. Door's locked. If anyone but me comes back, you run. He left her there, surrounded by everything his wealth had built. Heated floors, soft blankets, a golden retriever guard, and a doghouse in the yard that represented one woman's belief that dignity mattered. The parking garage was downtown, concrete and shadows, the kind of place where sound echoed and cameras had convenient blind spots. Matthew parked on the 3rd level as instructed, alone despite every instinct screaming at him to bring backup visible enough to matter. But his phone was recording. His security team was 3 floors down, and rage gave him something sharper than fear. A black SUV pulled up. 2 men got out. One was Travis Wilson. Matthew recognized him from photos Destiny had described. Mid-30s, forgettable face, the kind of bland evil that hid in plain sight. The other was older, expensive suit, cold eyes. Mr. Sterling. Travis smiled with too many teeth. Pleasure to meet you, even under unfortunate circumstances. Where's the girl? The older man was direct, businesslike. This can be simple. Her name is Destiny Williams. Matthew kept his hands visible, non-threatening. And she's not going anywhere with you. She's a ward of the state. We're authorized caregivers. You're child traffickers. Matthew's voice cut clean. I know about the photographs, the interviews, the 3 girls who vanished. I know about the shell companies and the late-night visitors. Travis's smile faded. That's a serious accusation. Without proof, that's slander. I have proof. Surveillance footage, license plates, financial records connecting you to at least 6 different organizations involved in exploitation. Matthew held up his phone. I've sent everything to the FBI, to news organizations, to advocacy groups. This is over. The older man sighed. You're making this complicated, Mr. Sterling. We prefer simple. A van pulled up behind Matthew's car. Two more men got out, 4 against 1. Matthew's heart hammered, but he stood his ground. Complicated how? He asked. You're a wealthy man having a breakdown after your wife's death. You abducted a vulnerable minor for purposes we don't need to specify. Tragic. The authorities will be sympathetic. Travis stepped closer. Or you return our property. Forget this happened, and we all go home. She's not property. Legally, she's nobody. No family, no connections. Girls like her disappear every day, and the world keeps spinning. I'm her connection now. Matthew's jaw set. And I'm someone. I have lawyers, resources. I'm making her somebody they'll look for. The older man nodded. The 2 men from the van moved forward. Matthew triggered his phone's emergency beacon. Upstairs in his house, Destiny's phone would be blaring an alarm. His security team's alert would be screaming. The recording would automatically upload to cloud storage. But none of that helped him right now. With hands grabbing his arms, something pressed against his ribs that felt like a gun. We tried simple, Travis said. Now we do it another way. They dragged Matthew toward the van. He fought, but they were professional, efficient. They zip-tied his hands, shoved him into the back. The vehicle smelled like industrial cleaner trying to cover something worse. Travis climbed in with him. Hey, here's what happens next. We're collecting our property. Your house, right? Nice brownstone, Gold Coast. Heated doghouse in the yard. That detail made me laugh. He pulled out a knife, not threatening yet, just present. You're going to call her. Tell her to come down. We grab her. You forget this happened. Everyone lives. No. No? Travis's eyebrows rose. You think you're protecting her? We've been doing this 5 years, moved 43 girls. Not one investigation stuck. You know why? Because the system doesn't care about them. They're inventory, replaceable. She's not. Matthew's voice stayed steady despite his pulse screaming. She's brilliant, observant, brave. She saw through you in weeks. That's why she's valuable. Travis leaned closer. Smart ones fetch higher prices. Buyers like intelligence, means trainable, adaptable. Matthew felt bile rise. You're talking about a child. I'm talking about a business, supply and demand. These girls, they're already discarded. Society threw them away. We just profit from the waste. He smiled. Now make the call. Matthew looked at his phone, thinking fast. If he called, warned her, they'd know. If he didn't call, they'd go to his house anyway. Either way, Destiny was in danger. Unless she was already gone. He'd told her to run if anyone but him came back. She'd promised. And she was smart. Smarter than any of them gave her credit for. She'd see his security team scrambling. She'd hear the silence where Matthew's voice should be. She'd know. No, Matthew said again. Travis sighed. Cut the zip ties. Fine, we'll get her without you. But you're coming along. Insurance. The van drove. Matthew tracked turns by feel, tried to memorize the route. 15 minutes. They stopped. His house. He saw it through the van's windows, lights on, no movement visible. Travis and the older man approached the front door, knocked, waited. Nothing. They tried the door. Locked. Rang the bell. Silence. Travis pulled out a phone. She's not here. Check inside. The older man gestured. One of them kicked the door in. They entered, guns drawn. Matthew sat in the van with one guard, listening to his heart hammer against his ribs. Minutes passed. They emerged, frustrated. Gone, Travis reported. Dog 2. She ran. The older man turned to Matthew. Where would she go? Somewhere you'll never find her. Matthew allowed himself a small smile. She's brilliant, remember? You said so yourself. Travis hit him. Not hard enough to knock him out, just hard enough to hurt. We'll find her. This city isn't that big, and when we do, you'll watch what happens before we kill you. But Matthew saw the crack in his confidence. Because Destiny hadn't just run, she'd disappeared. 43 girls over 5 years, and this one 14-year-old had outthought them all. Pride surged through his fear. They drove again. Somewhere on the south side, industrial area, warehouses that looked abandoned. They dragged Matthew inside, tied him to a chair in a room that smelled like rust and fear. Last chance, the older man said. Where is she? I don't know. Truth. And I wouldn't tell you if I did. They left him there in the dark with one guard at the door. Matthew tested the zip ties on his wrists. Too tight. Professional. Hours passed. Maybe. Time felt wrong in the dark. Then he heard it. Distant. Sirens. The guard heard it too, stepped outside. Voices, urgent, running footsteps. The door burst open. FBI, SWAT gear, lights so bright Matthew's eyes watered. Matthew Sterling? Here. His voice cracked. I'm here. They cut him free, rushed him outside. The parking lot was chaos. Vehicles, agents, flashing lights, and standing beside an FBI agent in a jacket too big for her, giving a detailed statement with a steady voice and observant eyes that missed nothing, was Destiny Williams. She saw him, ran, hugged him so hard he couldn't breathe. "You're okay," she sobbed. "You're okay. How did you—" "You taught me." She pulled back, showed him her phone. "You showed me how to track license plates, how to use surveillance footage. When your security team called and said you were in trouble, I remembered everything you found. I remembered the addresses, the connections, the patterns." She wiped her eyes. "I called the FBI, gave them everything, led them here." An agent approached. "Mr. Sterling? Agent Morrison, FBI. Your young friend here provided us with enough probable cause for 5 warrants. We've been looking for this operation for 2 years. She cracked it in 2 hours." Matthew looked at Destiny. "You saved yourself. We saved each other." She smiled through tears. "That's how it works, right? Dignity for everyone, not just dogs." The arrests happened fast once the evidence chain started. Travis Wilson. The older man, Raymond Hughes, vice president of the property management company, 6 others involved in the trafficking network. And 3 days later, Gregory Anderson. The financial connections were undeniable. Gregory's wife's family held silent partnership in the shell companies. Money from management fees filtered through accounts he controlled. He'd profited from 43 children over 5 years. "I didn't know what they were doing," Gregory claimed in his lawyer's office while Matthew watched via video conference. "I invested in property management, legal business." "You knew." Matthew's voice was cold over the speakers. "You knew, and when a 14-year-old girl threatened to expose it, you tried to have her return to them." Gregory's face crumpled. "I have a family, a reputation. I couldn't—" 43 children had families once. You took them anyway." Matthew ended the call. Destiny sat beside him in his lawyer's office, wrapped in a new coat that actually fit. Social services had assigned her a temporary advocate. The court had granted Matthew emergency foster status pending full investigation. It wasn't perfect, but it was legal. Safe. The girls started coming forward. Keisha, alive, found in a house 3 states away. 2 others recovered in similar raids the FBI coordinated simultaneously. Stories emerged, horror stories, but also survival stories. Girls who'd lived through nightmare and came out the other side with their dignity intact because they refused to be broken. Destiny testified, clear-eyed, steady-voiced. She walked the court through her observations, her investigation, her strategic decision to choose Matthew as an ally. Prosecutors called her remarkable. Matthew called her brave. The media called it the biggest trafficking bust in Illinois history. 13 girls recovered. 23 people arrested. Networks in 4 states exposed. And at the center of the story, a 14-year-old girl who'd asked to sleep in a doghouse and instead brought down an empire of cruelty. Reporters camped outside Matthew's house for weeks. He hired security, installed better cameras, put up gates that Gatsby barked at. But inside, life found a rhythm. Destiny enrolled in school. Matthew pulled strings to get her into a good one with therapy services and patience for trauma. She struggled at first, couldn't sit with her back to doors, couldn't sleep without checking locks 3 times, couldn't trust that safety was real. But slowly, winter became spring. The doghouse sat in the garden, empty now that Gatsby preferred sleeping at Destiny's door. She'd pass it sometimes, run her hand along the cedar panels Sarah had crafted, and say quiet thank yous to a woman she'd never meet but whose philosophy had saved her life. One afternoon, 6 months after that December night, Destiny found Matthew in his study staring at blueprints. "What are you working on?" she asked. He looked up. "Remember how you said that doghouse showed you what care looks like?" "Yeah, I'm building more." He spread the plans across his desk. Emergency youth shelter, 40 beds, each one a private pod, heated, secure, small enough to feel safe, dignified enough to feel human. He showed her the design. Individual units instead of warehouse-style dorms, modular so kids could arrange their own space, built with the same over-engineered compassion Sarah had poured into Gatsby's house. "Based on the doghouse," Destiny's voice caught. based on the idea that everyone deserves what she believed in. Matthew looked at her. I'm calling it Sarah's shelter, and I need a consultant who understands what these kids need, someone who's lived it, someone brilliant who sees what others miss. You want me to help design it? I want you to help run it. Eventually, when you're ready, when you want to. He smiled. You saved 13 girls by being brave. Imagine how many we could save by building something that actually works, Destiny cried. Happy tears this time, tears that tasted like purpose instead of pain. 1 year later, snow fell soft on Chicago, but inside Sarah's shelter, 32 young people slept warm. The building stood on the south side, walking distance from where Destiny had lived in fear, now transformed into a monument to the idea that dignity wasn't negotiable. The architecture mirrored what Sarah had built, small pods instead of institutional rooms, each with heating controls and locks that only the resident could open. Common spaces felt like homes, not facilities. Staff underwent rigorous screening. Trauma-informed care was mandatory, not optional, and in the central courtyard, preserved under glass and heated by the same solar system Sarah had installed, sat the original doghouse. A bronze plaque beside it read, "Every young person deserves warmth, safety, and dignity. Sarah Sterling." Destiny stood in that courtyard now, 15 years old, preparing for the anniversary celebration. She wore a dress she'd picked herself, hair styled by choice, not necessity, confident in a way that came from knowing she belonged somewhere. Matthew found her there, adjusting the sound system for the speeches. Nervous? He asked. Terrified. She grinned, but the good kind. Guests arrived, donors, social workers, politicians who'd passed the legislation that Sarah's shelter had inspired, mandatory oversight for group homes, anonymous reporting systems, funding increases for youth services. 12 of the girls from the trafficking ring came, survivors supporting survivors. Keisha was there, healthy and thriving, working on her GED. The mayor spoke about systemic change. The FBI director praised cooperation between communities and law enforcement. Reporters documented everything. But when Destiny took the microphone, the room went silent. "A year ago," she said, "I knocked on a wooden door and asked a stranger if I could sleep in his dog's house. I was cold and scared and running out of options. I thought if I could just survive the night, maybe I'd figure out tomorrow." She paused. That stranger could have called the cops, could have said no, could have decided I was somebody else's problem. Instead, he invited me inside, made me hot chocolate, gave me blankets, treated me like I mattered. She looked at Matthew. But more than that, he listened. He believed me when I said I was in danger. He used his resources to fight for me. And when I got the chance, I used everything he taught me to fight back. Her voice strengthened. That's what this place is. It's not just shelter, it's partnership. It's adults who believe young people when we say we need help. It's safety that doesn't strip dignity. It's the idea that everyone deserves what that doghouse represented. She gestured to the glass enclosure. Sarah Sterling built that because she believed no creature under her care should suffer. She's gone, but her philosophy lives here. In every kid who sleeps warm tonight, in every staff member who sees us as people, not problems, in every policy that changed because we proved the system was broken. Applause erupted. Destiny waited for quiet. Keisha's here today. She's alive because we didn't stop looking. 12 other girls are rebuilding lives because one man decided a child in the cold mattered more than convenience. She smiled through tears. Matthew tells me I saved myself, but that's not true. We saved each other, that's the legacy. Not one hero. A community that decided dignity matters. More applause, people standing, cameras flashing. Matthew hugged her when she came off stage. "Your mom would be proud," he whispered. "Which one?" she asked. "Because I think I have two now." He pulled back, surprised. They hadn't officially discussed adoption yet. The system was complicated. Her family history was tangled. "Matthew Sterling," she said formally. "When I'm ready and when it's legal, would you want to make the foster situation permanent?" His eyes watered. "Yes, absolutely yes." "Good." She squeezed his hand. "Because someone told me family isn't just blood. It's who shows up when you're cold." Outside, snow continued falling. Gatsby dozed in the courtyard, old now but content, surrounded by young people who stopped to pet him between activities. The doghouse stood as monument and reminder, a symbol that had evolved from excess to philosophy to revolution. Destiny watched through the window, warm and safe and home. Matthew Sterling didn't expect to become a father at 53. He certainly didn't expect it to start with a question about a doghouse on the coldest night of December, but sometimes the most important moments arrive disguised as impossibilities. A child in the cold, a choice between comfort and conscience, a tiny act of dignity that unravels into systemic change. Sarah's shelter served 348 young people in its first year. Policy changes inspired by Destiny's testimony reached 6 states. The trafficking network's collapse led to 47 more arrests across the country. Not all the girls were found. Some stories don't have perfect endings, but more endings were happy than would have been without one teenager's courage and one millionaire's decision to care. Destiny graduated high school with honors, applied to college studying social work and architecture, learning to build systems and spaces that honored the people inside them. She still checked locks 3 times before sleeping, still positioned herself near exits. Trauma doesn't disappear because the story ends, but she learned to carry it alongside joy, alongside purpose, alongside the knowledge that she mattered. The doghouse sits in Sarah's shelter courtyard still, weathered by seasons but carefully maintained. Young people visit it, touch the wood, read the plaque, and understand what it represents. Not luxury for animals while humans suffered, but a philosophy that every creature deserves care, expanded to its logical conclusion. Sometimes dignity starts small, a heated shelter, a cup of hot chocolate, an adult who believes you, and sometimes small dignities grow into revolutions. Here's my question for you. When was the last time someone's small act of noticing you changed everything? Or when did you offer that gift to someone else? The gift of being seen, being believed, being treated like you mattered. Drop your story in the comments. I read every one. And if this story moved you, if you believe every person deserves warmth and safety and dignity, hit subscribe. Because every week we tell stories about ordinary people facing impossible questions and choosing the harder right instead of the easier wrong. Hit that bell. Your attention matters. These stories matter. Thank you for listening.